Hello everybody and welcome back to yet another video on Total War Warhammer 2. Now, I'm at the point in the game where I have played a campaign as every single faction in the game. Now, of course, some factions have changed over the years, but I still have a pretty good idea of how each one plays and their strengths and weaknesses. This has, of course, led me to the magnum opus of content, which is every single faction ranked from worst to best in Total War Warhammer 2. Now, I'm going to try to be as objective as I can, because we all know I have some severe opinions on the factions, and it wouldn't really be fair for that to affect their ranking. That being said, this is still a list being made by me, so if you disagree with my ranking, then be sure to let me know in the comments down below. These are not facts, these are just my personal thoughts and opinions based on my playthrough of the characters and the different campaigns. Now, without further ado, let's get going, because this is going to take some time. First of all, taking our absolute bottom spot is the Beastmen. Good God, they are terrible. They have literally one mechanic, and it's just a choice of dilemmas every so often for a few random effects every few turns. Now, the random effects also come with downsides, which mean it's kicking you whilst you're down because the Beastmen are terrible anyway, so why do they need some downsides to the one good thing they get? On top of this, they're also fighting the Empire, which, you know, can be fun, but when they are as powerful as the Empire are, and you are the Beastmen, and you are not as powerful as anything, then it is pretty damn painful. Now, the roster in battle is actually not too bad, but it is just tiny. There is no unit variety whatsoever. There is only one playstyle, and it's complete rush, so there's not really much strategy to it. It's just kind of select all your units, move them up, surround the enemy, rinse and repeat. And they also have literally one choice of a generic lord. I mean, I know this is a DLC pack, and it's kind of relatively expensive as well, and we get one lord type, one generic lord type. Are you serious? It's really not acceptable. I do hope they're going to fix the Beastmen soon, because as it stands, they are horrific. Now, just above them is the Warriors of Chaos, and honestly, they are probably interchangeable, but, well, I prefer the Warriors of Chaos, and I'm going to let you know why. They have pretty much all the same problems of the Beastmen, but actually have even less mechanics. They have literally nothing helping them, apart from the fact that they can take over NORSCA and dominate Norscan settlements and then reawaken them. The starting in the north and dominating the Norskans, it allows you to get an easier start, farm some levels before you take on the Empire, whereas the Beastmen are just straight into fighting the Empire no matter where you start. This is much less painful and gives you time to prepare before you get your ass beaten by the Empire, and that is the sole reason that they are above them. As for battle, their roster, very uninteresting, very small, few monster units, few cav units, a really cool artillery unit granted, but apart from that, literally nothing exciting apart from Dragon Ogres. Next up, just above these, we have NORSCA, which are pretty much what the Warriors of Chaos should be, since they share a few of the same units and mechanics and unit variety. The Allegiance with the Dark Gods mechanic is simplistic, but it does add some fun strategy to the mindless raising of, you guessed it, the Empire and Order Tide in general. They can get settlements, but only NORSCA on the coast or faction capitals, which means either global recruitment or walking back and forth the entire game, which is a pain in the ass, and to be honest, they probably should have stuck with the Horde mechanic, at least in some respect. They have a better and bigger selection of monster units as well as monster hunters, so actually have a couple of different army builds which are both viable. Aside from that, they are still pretty basic and not particularly good. Next up, we have the Dwarves, and from now on, it's kind of close between the levels, so don't get too offended if I put your faction too low. Now, the Dwarves are the faction from the old world that, if you ask me, has had the least updates since Warhammer 1, while everyone around them has been buffed even more. They are only really this low because the Greenskins are now so strong. If this list was made before the Greenskin rework, the Dwarves would probably be a lot higher, but playing as Dwarves right now is absolutely painful, and they have a very hard time surviving. The campaign is so straightforward with pretty much no mechanics aside from some crafting and some revenge thing named after a shit YouTuber. The same thing in battle, very straightforward. Their roster is fine, and to be honest, out of all the factions, they can probably turtle the best in the entire game, but they're just a bit boring and extremely basic compared to other factions, plus are very susceptible to being rushed, which is just due to them being so damn slow. Now, to clarify, I like the Dwarves. They are quite fun. In battle, they're very relaxing because, as I said, you can just turtle. But as it stands right now, they're just really too weak and they need a DLC or an update. Hopefully soon. Next up, and this pains me to say this, is the vampire counts. Now, they may only be higher than the Dwarves because I love them too much, but it still hurts that they're this low. They really haven't received much love since the Mortal Empires merge. Yes, they got the Bloodlines update, which was fun and gave them a massive Lord selection, but other than that, it's just some bonuses to get over the course of the campaign rather than any actual mechanics. They did introduce the Raise Dead mechanic to the game though, which is super cool and has been one of my favourite mechanics since Warhammer 1, and I think it definitely places them firmly above the Dwarves, purely because you can just instantly get a full army of units if you happen across a major battle site. Now, their roster isn't the most inspired, and they do also have just the one playstyle of, you know, rush, but their selection of infantry, monsters, and magical units is really cool and unique, and it's what got me to fall in love with the game, so I'm putting it here. I know I said opinions aren't in this, but opinions are going to seep into this, okay? I can't help it. Now, next up, speaking of opinions, is Bretonnia. And yeah, it still hurts me that Bretonnia are above the vampire counts, but to be honest, they're only really above the vampire counts if you know how to play them. For one, they are part of the Order Tide, so can form a big alliance and, you know, never be touched, because that's what the Order Tide is. They also have a pretty defensible position surrounded by allies they can confederate whenever they want via the research tree. Their faction mechanics are good when you can stay on top of them, but I personally hate them because I just feel like they're there to slow you down every turn. Get too many peasants, then you have no money. Want some elite cav? Too bad, your lord hasn't completed a side quest yet, and you also have no money. Now, their roster is actually quite good, but again, only if you're good at them. The heavy cav focus makes them one of the most micro-intensive factions in the game, but if you get them nailed down, then you can literally run circles around most people. Next up we have the Dark Elves, which are the first of the base factions from Warhammer 2. Now, since launch on Warhammer 2, they have been on a very steady decline if you ask me. When it first launched, they put up a good fight against the High Elves, but as the game has gone on, their threat has become much less as the High Elves continue to fortify Ulthuan with more and more legendary lords. The Dark Elves are still decent, don't get me wrong, and some campaigns they do manage to overthrow the Order Tide and rule the world, but they just aren't quite there yet. Their campaign is a weird one, fueled by poor public order and slavery to make obscene amounts of money, which allows them to have a very fruitful economy, but also a kind of difficult to manage empire. They also have one of my least favourite mechanics in the game, which is loyalty. And yes, I know it makes a lot of lore sense, but from a gameplay perspective, I hate it. They also have Black Arcs, which, when used properly, can be stupidly overpowered and provide your armies with unfair bonuses when they are within range. And their battle roster is odd to say the least. They have a mix of elite units from the front line, back line and cav that are heavily armoured and trained, and then there are also a bunch of monsters that are relatively out of control. There are cav that ride lizards, and then there are cav that cast spells. They do have a strong roster, it's just very mixed up and weird when you look at it, and it kind of makes it difficult to make a composition. Still, they are decently strong, but out of the base Warhammer 2 factions, I would have to say that they are definitely the weakest. Next up we have the Tomb Kings, and they're the first new race to be added to Warhammer 2 in a DLC. And they were dominant when they were added, with no upkeep to pay and infinite recruitment of chaff. They seemed like the perfect faction to host a skeleton apocalypse, and were very appealing to an undead fanboy such as myself. They brought with them one of the most unique recruitment systems in the game, where you have to build buildings to unlock unit capacity. They brought one of the most unique economies in the game, where they pay no upkeep, but also don't really earn much from many sources. They have a unique campaign style where you go around collecting books and pyramids, because Tomb Kings know that there's one thing more powerful than world domination.
Knowledge.
The four lords are fun and unique from each other, both personality-wise and in how they play, and of course the roster is again one of the most unique in the game. The mix of chaffy skeletons with massive constructs held together by magic. It was a really different playstyle, and it helped that you had to try out different units to make the most of your capacity, which is fun. We all know that when we get to the end game we like to stick to the same composition. With the Tomb Kings you can't really do that, which I appreciate. They are a truly unique addition to the game, but they're not really too powerful. As soon as they settled into the game, they haven't really spiked up much of a conversation since. Coming in 7th place we have the Vampire Coast, and they're the second DLC to get added to Warhammer 2. And oh boy was I excited for these guys, along with every single other person. True undead vampires, but also pirates, which is possibly the coolest combination of words you can say. They brought with them a hybrid horde and settlement mechanic, which is weird but crazy powerful and a lot of fun. You spend their campaign doing piratey things like searching for treasure and plundering booty from your enemies, all the while upgrading your ship to recruit on the go. You also have the sea shanty, brought the wandering pirate lords, pieces of 8, as well as puzzles to find in ruins. They brought a ton of mechanics for both themselves and the whole game, and they were a lot of fun to play. Their battle roster is a real love letter to Gunpowder fans of the series, with the majority of their actually damaging units being gunner units. Combine this with their truly unique aesthetic of monstrous units with a splash of marine biology, and you can crank the shanties and enjoy one of the best themed factions in the game. They may not be the best faction, but if you're looking for perfect theming, then look no further. The Lizardmen are next, and they are the second of the base Warhammer 2 factions, and I was actually the most excited to play these upon seeing the announced Warhammer 2. They've likely received their last DLC for the Warhammer 2 lifecycle, and the spot they're in right now is interesting. The lords added when the game launched, and Gorok, are super strong, but the lords added with DLC like Tehenwin and Nakai are not really the best. This is mostly to do with faction mechanics, since the base faction has very set ground rules which make them work. They're an expensive faction, but play right and you will make bank from lots of trade and income buildings as well as commandments. The Geomantic Web is one of those things I always forget about, but it can be super strong when you get to that level. It's just getting to that level, it's hard. Now their roster is one of the most visually interesting in the game. Now let's ignore the fact that dinosaurs have a closer relation to birds than lizards. Here we have a faction that in the same army can have chameleons with blow darts and a giant alligator thing with a mini fortress on its back. We have magical toads who moo, dinosaurs riding dinosaurs, fire-breathing lizards, and even lizards with mounted artillery. They are truly one of the most stunning rosters in the game, and still to this day, I look at them and I'm seriously impressed by the artists over at CA. They did a fantastic job with these guys. Now they are really, really, really good, but they just aren't as good as the others. The High Elves, the most boring and safe faction in the game, truly the vanilla ice cream of Warhammer 2 races. Now their campaign is built on being in the Order tide and reaping massive money from trade. Seriously, these guys can trade with everyone and make stupid amounts of bank from it. They can also meddle in diplomatic affairs by using their influence mechanic, and that's about it really. They are very straightforward and always have been my recommendation for your first campaign. In battle, they are again very straightforward to help you learn the game. They have a tough front line to allow you plenty of time to manage other units. They have incredible ranged units which you can just set and forget for most of the time, a hybrid artillery piece to teach you the importance of anti-infantry and anti-large damage, some monstrous flying units to ease you into the monsters, and some great cav to teach you micro. They are the most straightforward faction and perhaps the most easy faction to master and do well as, but when played to their full potential, I really don't think they're the best. Coming in our number 4 spot, we have the Wood Elves, and since their last DLC, they have been catapulted from probably the bottom to top 4, which is seriously impressive. The rework gave them purpose and direction that they never had before, and turned them from a gimmick faction to a world, or at least a forest, dominator. The ability to travel the entire map in a single turn is insane, and the magical forest focus allows them to quickly take over these key locations on the map and ramp up their power at an alarming rate. Their roster might not be the most varied or exciting, but it's still plenty powerful, and they do have some of the best ranged units in the game that can literally fill up an entire army and do just fine. Aside from the ranged units, they also have a large number of cavalry, both melee and ranged, that allow you to make battles as complicated or simple as you want. They also have a few forest spirit monsters to keep things interesting and bring just a little bit more balance to their battles. Overall, while they may not be everyone's cup of tea, they are certainly very powerful at the moment in all aspects of the game and are worth trying while you can, because let's be honest, they'll probably either get nerfed or another faction will get buffed, which will indirectly nerf them. Coming in our number 3 spot, we have the Greenskins, and similar to the Wood Elves, they're only this high because of their rework last year. Before that, they were probably about the same or worse than Dwarves, but oh boy, now they are strong. The new and improved WAG mechanic really gives them a power spike that is basically just a vertical line upwards. Getting an entirely new army with your main one that costs no upkeep and just does what you do is stupid strong, and why didn't they think of this before? On top of that, they gain the tribe mechanic, which, if you ask me, is one of the most underrated and stupidly strong things to get added to any faction. Hunting down faction leaders to beat them in battle and confederate them means you can expand at such a stupidly rapid rate that it's insane. Once you've got to the point where you have control of all the factions in the same race, you have so much land and power that you can take on anyone, be they an elven Batman or a living Empire meme. The army is also really strong, but a little strange to get used to if you ask me. They're all about battle momentum and pure aggression. The choice of going with either sneaky goblins or tougher orcs is great fun and brings some army variety to the faction. Of course, there are still units to fill any role, and while they may not be the best in any one category, they have great options in everything, which spells a lot of balanced armies. In second place, we have the Empire. Need I really explain this one? The Empire have been strong since day one, and while they may have been behind throughout their rework, they were still strong. These days, they are the dominant force of the old world, and 99% of the time end up taking over so much of the map that taking them on is suicide. The mechanic allows them to take control of other Empire factions at an alarming rate and reap so many benefits from doing so. They are of course a member of Team Order tide, so can also form massive alliances and make themselves pretty much untouchable. Also, because of the Order tide connection, they also have the potential to be supremely rich, and contrary to popular belief, mo money does not mean mo problems. Their roster is also the poster child for jack of nearly all trades. They have great options for the front line, the backlines, cavalry, war machines, and artillery especially. The Hellstorm rocket battery is the scariest thing to hit the old world since your mum, and when I see it in the enemy army, I lose all my hope. The only place where they don't have anything is flying units, but what's that? I can't hear you with my 15 armies chock full of more gunpowder than 3 world wars. Now crank the fortunate son, would you? The Empire are the most popular faction in the game, and it's easy to see why. They are the most approachable Game 1 race, the most approachable race to the historical fans, and good god do they have the potential to be strong. But still, I don't think they are the strongest. Of course, the number 1 spot goes to the SKAVEN. They have had so many DLCs at this point that it is a running joke. They're a little bit flooded with mechanics depending which sub-faction you go for, but if you can manage all of these mechanics, then you can truly dominate the game like no one else. Correctly manage food and your growth and armies will outperform anyone. Get the right undercities in the right places and you will siphon so much bank that you'll make Bill Gates look like middle class. Max out that ambush stance and you'll be fighting nearly every single battle with a severe advantage going your way. Play Ikit Claw and buff all your weapons teams to the moons and back whilst literally nuking the enemy, and you'll quickly see why they are the best, and it's not even close. Their entire gimmick is being unfair and taking every advantage they can, but this is a little too literal. Their roster continues this theme. The aforementioned weapon teams are stupidly strong even without Ikit Claw. They have literal miniguns and sniper rifles for a faction comprised of slightly intelligent rats. Monsters added in the latest DLC give them a massive presence in the front lines and back lines and all lines in fact, since some of them are so damn fast they can be wherever they want, whenever you want them. The war machines like artillery and of course the glorious doom wheels are of course also incredible. The only place where they aren't incredible is the front lines, but that's the whole point. Bring an army of your actual units and then a bunch of slaves to bog down the enemy while you tear up everything from afar. Everything being the enemy units of course, not the slaves, that would be highly immoral. Honestly, I don't really believe that they can be beaten once they get in control of what they're doing, and this has to mean that they are the strongest faction in the game, at least according to my list. But yes, that concludes everything. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Hopefully this video hasn't been too long and you did enjoy it. As I said in the start, if you disagree with my list, then be sure to leave your list down in the comments. This is, again, quite a subjective topic to talk about, so I'm very interested to know what everyone thinks. If you did enjoy this video on point, then please do consider leaving it a like. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to check out more Total War content. I upload videos every single week, and I'm also planning on upping this output, so be sure to stay tuned for that because you don't want to miss a thing. One more time, thank you very much for watching, and for now, I've been COLONELDAMNEDERS, and I'll see you next turn.